Level 1. The Probationer. You are 23 years old, and you don't know you've already been watched for 11 months. The letter arrives on a Tuesday. It looks like a standard Union Public Service Commission communication. Beige envelope, government typeface, the kind of thing your mother frames if you make it to the IAS, but this one has a different routing code in the top left corner. A number, not a department name. You won't understand what that means for another 6 weeks. You've been selected for what is officially called the Cabinet Secretariat. That's what your appointment papers say. That's what you tell your parents. Your father thinks you're doing administrative work in Delhi. You let him believe that. RAW, the Research and Analysis Wing, does not exist as a legal entity under any Indian statute. It was created by a cabinet order in 1968. It has no founding act, no parliamentary oversight, no public budget line. You work for an organization that, on paper, is not there. Your first posting is to a beige building in New Delhi's Lodi estate complex. You share a desk. You read intelligence summaries for 9 hours a day. The summaries are 3 days old. By the time they reach you, you are not yet trusted with fresh product. You make Rs. 56,000 a month. Decent for a government job, humiliating for what you signed away. What you signed away, the right to publish anything, speak to any foreign national without logging it, attend certain political events, own property abroad, and maintain friendships with people your handlers decide are contacts of concern. You signed this under a section of the Official Secrets Act that carries a 14-year sentence for violation. The pen felt ordinary in your hand. The surprising fact nobody tells you: RAW's training pipeline borrows heavily from the old British IB structure, which means half your tradecraft doctrine is 70 years old. You are learning to run an asset using techniques developed when the enemy traveled by steam. The psychological tension arrives at week 3. A senior officer asks you to compile a profile on a Kashmiri student activist who attends Jawaharlal Nehru University. She is 21. She likes Neruda. You write 8 pages about her. You include her boyfriend's name. You include her mother's address in Sopore. You tell yourself this is research. You are right. It is research. That's what makes it hard to sleep. Level 2. The field trainee. 18 months in, they move you to the Technical Services Division Annex in Chanakyapuri for what your transfer order calls Advanced Administrative Orientation. It is, in fact, spy school, not the cinematic kind. There are no firing ranges with moving targets, no parkour across rooftops. There is a classroom that smells of mildew and whiteboard markers, and an instructor named simply Subramaniam Sir, who spent 16 years running agents in Dhaka and speaks in a voice so flat it could cut glass. He teaches you to write in one-time pad cipher to conduct surveillance detection routes through markets, specifically Delhi's Lajpat Nagar market, because the lanes are narrow and the crowd patterns are unpredictable, and to identify when you yourself are being followed. The surveillance detection route, or SDR, takes 4 hours minimum. You walk, you double back, you enter a shop and exit from a different door. You count faces. You do this in 43-degree June heat wearing a kurta that isn't yours, carrying a bag that contains a dead drop package, which is just a USB drive wrapped in electrical tape inside a cigarette box, which you will leave behind a specific, loose brick near a chai stall in Nizamuddin. The brick is marked with a chalk line so faint only you and one other person know what it means. The other person is a role player, a trainer. It's an exercise, but your hands sweat like it's real. Subramaniam. Sir says this is the point. The ironic fact, RAW agents receive no specialized combat training as standard. The organization officially relies on the IB for domestic security and on paramilitary liaison for physical protection. You are building one of the world's most consequential intelligence agencies on a foundation of bureaucratic paperwork and personal psychological endurance. There is no James Bond here. There is a man in a kurta sweating through a dead drop in a market that smells of raw onions and diesel. You pass. Barely. Your SDR timing is acceptable. Your cipher work is clean. Your behavioral tells you look left before lying. Subramaniam, Sir tells you, and you should never do that again, are mostly corrected. The dread arrives at your exit interview. He asks, "Are you prepared to deceive people you come to care about?" You say yes. He writes something down. You will wonder what he wrote for the next 4 years. Level 3. The Junior Field Officer. Your first real posting is Kathmandu. Nepal is called a soft posting by veterans, which is Raw's way of saying it matters enormously, but looks boring from the outside. India's relationship with Nepal is the most neurotic in South Asia. Nepal is landlocked, dependent, resentful, and saturated with Chinese influence operations that have been deepening since 2008. You are here because the MSS, China's Ministry of State Security, runs 12 identified officers out of their Kathmandu embassy, and RAW runs 8. You are now one of the 8. Your cover is a position at the Indian Embassy's Cultural Liaison Office. You process scholarship applications, you attend receptions, you eat dal bhat 4 times a week because it is cheap and it keeps you from drawing attention with restaurant receipts. You drink with journalists, NGO workers, and mid-level Nepali bureaucrats who are flattered that an Indian official wants their opinion. One of these bureaucrats becomes your first asset. You call him Birch in your reports. He works in the Home Ministry. He passes you information about Chinese infrastructure delegation meetings, not classified documents, just impressions, conversations, names of attendees. You pay him Rs. $15,000 a month from a discretionary account your station chief controls. Birch has 2 daughters in college. The money is meaningful to him. The surprising fact, RAW's station in Kathmandu is its oldest continuous foreign posting, predating even the Pakistan-focused operations. Nepal is where RAW first learned to run agents, and it remains the training ground where junior officers either prove themselves or quietly disappear back into the cabinet secretariat to process files for 30 years. The moral compromise crystallizes at month 7. Birch tells you something his superior told him in confidence, something about a Nepali politician's private position on a border dispute. This information is gold. You report it verbatim. The following month, the politician's career quietly collapses over what appears to be a corruption scandal. You do not know if these events are connected. You do not ask. This is the rule. You do not ask what your reports become. Birch doesn't know either. He keeps meeting you for tea. You keep paying him. Level 4. The station officer. 3 years and 2. Postings later, Colombo, then a brief rotation through headquarters. You are a full station officer. The rank doesn't have a cinematic name. Internally, it maps to a joint secretary equivalent grade, but you're in your early 30s and the designation means nothing outside Lodi Estate. What it means inside, you now run multiple assets. You write your own intelligence assessments. You decide who is worth paying and who is burned. Your posting is Dhaka, the most important RAW station in the world after Islamabad, though fewer people know it. Bangladesh is where India's northeastern insurgencies breathe. It is where the ISI runs exfiltration routes for militants out of Manipur and Assam. It is where 43 million people live within 30 kilometers of the Indian border and where the border itself is so porous that smugglers move cattle, people, and weapons through the same routes used by legitimate traders since the 1800s. You run 6 assets. 1 is a police official. 1 is a Bengali language journalist. 2 are mid-level officials in separate ministries. 1, and this is the one you think about at 3 a.m., is a woman whose brother is a senior figure in a militant organization that has killed 12 Indian soldiers in the past 2 years. She doesn't know her information helps track her brother. You have never told her this. You call her Mango in your reports. In person, you call her Priya, her cover name, not her real one. You meet at a tea house near Gulshan. She thinks you are a development consultant. She trusts you because you listen well and never push too hard. She has told you things she has told no one else. The ironic fact, Dhaka Station has a running internal joke that RAW stands for Rarely Acts, Waits. The agency's institutional culture prizes collection over action, intelligence over intervention. You will gather extraordinary information about things you cannot stop. This is the job. Your sleep is functional. 4 to 6 hours. You have stopped dreaming with narrative. Your dreams now come in flashes. A face, a word, a chalk mark on a wall. Level 5. The Deputy Station Chief. You are 40 years old, and you have not had a conversation you did not calculate in 8 years. Deputy Station Chief, Islamabad. The assignment that defines careers or ends them. You will receive this posting and feel, for exactly 4 seconds, something close to pride. Then you will realize what it means to live inside the most surveilled square kilometer in South Asia. The Pakistani ISI monitors the Indian High Commission in Islamabad, with a sophistication that Indian intelligence publicly underestimates and privately respects. Every vehicle leaving the compound is logged. Your phone, the cover phone, the clean phone, is assumed to be compromised at all times. You conduct sensitive conversations only in a sensitive compartmented information facility, a SCIF, which is a room within a room within a room, lined with copper mesh to block electronic penetration. It smells of recycled air and something faintly chemical. You will spend approximately 600 hours of your career in this room. You oversee a network of 11 assets across Pakistan. You inherit them from your predecessor, who is now back in Delhi with a condition that the medical file describes as chronic stress-related hypertension, and that everyone in the station calls Islamabad collapse. It happens to roughly 1 in 3 officers who serve full tours here. The surprising fact, despite the hostility, RAW and ISI maintain back-channel communication protocols that have been continuous since 1989. Even through Kargil, even through the 2008 Mumbai attacks. There are dedicated intermediaries in Dubai and Bangkok who carry messages between the two agencies that no politician on either side is briefed on. You learn this at your first Islamabad station briefing and feel, briefly, that the world is run by a parallel government of exhausted professionals who are too tired to hate each other cleanly. The psychological breakpoint comes when one of your inherited assets, Crane, a retired military officer with ties to ISI's S-Wing, disappears. From contact for 6 weeks. When he resurfaces, his behavior patterns have shifted. He is giving you information that is slightly too good. Your predecessor warned you this might happen. The ISI occasionally turns assets and feeds them back as doubles. You report your suspicions. Headquarters tells you to continue running Crane. While they assess, you feed him plausible false information. He feeds it back to the ISI. You are now running a deception operation through a man who may or may not know he is being used in both directions. He has a wife. He has grandchildren in Lahore. He meets you in a safe house that smells of mildew and old newspapers. He shakes your hand each time like you are friends. You shake back. Level 6. The station chief. You run a station now, not deputy. Yours Bangkok, the regional hub for all of Southeast and East Asian operations. More RAW officers pass through Bangkok than any city outside South Asia. It is where you meet assets from Myanmar's military factions, Chinese dissidents who are sometimes genuine and sometimes MSS plants, North Korean defectors who carry information about Pyongyang's missile technology transfers to Pakistan. A connection that has been publicly denied and privately confirmed for 20 years. You have 17 direct reports. You manage a budget that you cannot discuss, paid from accounts that don't appear in the union budget, routed through a Delhi-controlled overseas account structure so layered that even you don't know its full architecture. A finance officer in Lodi estate knows. You trust him because you have no choice. The surprising fact, Bangkok Station is the primary interface for RAW's technology acquisition network. India has consistently used Thailand as a transit point for obtaining dual-use technology and intelligence from third-country sources, equipment that cannot be acquired through official channels because of export controls or diplomatic sensitivities. Some of this technology ends up in India's space program. Some of it ends up in places you choose not to examine. You are making Rs 2.4 lakh a month plus allowances, which sounds significant until you calculate what you have surrendered. 2 postings. Missed your son's major life events. You were not there when he finished school. You called from a secure line when he got into engineering college, and the audio was so degraded by encryption that you couldn't tell if he was crying from happiness or disappointment. You did not ask him to repeat himself because the call was being logged. The station runs well under you. You are good at this. You are very good at this. That is the most frightening thing you know about yourself. Level 7. The Joint Secretary. You are back in Delhi, and it feels like a foreign country. Joint Secretary grade, RNAW Directorate. You sit in meetings where decisions are made about human beings as variables. You read cables from 23 stations and assess whether the intelligence product justifies the asset risk, meaning whether the information being gathered is worth the possibility that the person gathering it will be arrested, tortured, or killed. You do this before lunch. Your office has a window. You did not have a window for 11 years combined in the field. The window faces a courtyard. A government gardener waters the same 3 flower beds every Tuesday and Friday. You watch him, with the professional attention you cannot turn off, cataloging his patterns, his routes, his timing. You catch yourself doing this and feel something you recognize dimly as the memory of being a normal person. The ironic fact: Joint Secretaries in RAW are not confirmed by Parliament, not approved by any public body, and not listed on any government website. The organizational chart of RAW has never been officially published. You are, on paper, a senior official of the Cabinet Secretariat. You are responsible for intelligence operations affecting 1.4 billion people, and you could walk through an airport, unrecognized by every journalist, academic, and citizen in the country. This invisibility was a goal once. Now it feels like a verdict. You attend a family wedding that year, the first one in 6 years. A cousin asks what you do. You give the Cabinet Secretariat answer. He nods, impressed by nothing. Across the table, your wife looks at you with an expression you've learned to read. She is calculating how many more years of this there are, the way you calculate asset lifespans. You both look away at the same moment. Level 8. The Additional Secretary. Designation means you are now running divisions, not stations. Counterintelligence, technical intelligence. Human networks in 3 regional theaters. You are briefed by the National Security Advisor twice a week. The NSA calls you by your first name. The Prime Minister's office has read your assessments, not with attribution, but read them. You have spent 22 years building access to information that can move governments, and you now understand that this access is worth almost nothing without the political relationship to make it actionable. Intelligence without policy uptake is just expensive journalism. You have written assessments about Pakistani nuclear development that sat unread. You have flagged Chinese infrastructure positioning in Sri Lanka 18 months before it became a crisis, and watched the diplomatic response treat your warning as news rather than preparedness. The system does not fail. The system functions exactly as designed. This is the thing that keeps you awake, not the system's failures but its successes, and what the successes reveal about what was actually wanted. The surprising fact, RAW's most consequential intelligence, success, widely attributed to the agency in retired officer memoirs, was the advance warning before the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War. Intelligence that helped shape one of the most decisive military victories in post-colonial Asian history. The agency has spent 50 years trying to replicate that institutional coherence. According to 3 separate internal reviews conducted between 1995 and 2014, it has not succeeded. You know this because you commissioned the 3rd review. You filed it. It is in a cabinet somewhere. Level 9. The Special Secretary. There are 3 people between you and the directorship. You have been at this grade for 2 years. 2 of those 3 people are older than you. 1 is better connected than you. The math is not favorable. You have now been inside RAW for 27 years. You know things about foreign heads of state that their own security services do not know. You know things about your own country's political leadership that you are not permitted to record in writing. You have run assets who died, 2 of them directly, burned operations, identities compromised, bodies recovered and quietly repatriated through diplomatic cover stories that their families were never given the truth of. You attended neither funeral. The tradecraft term for what you carry is operational residue, what everyone else would call guilt. You sleep 6 hours a night. You exercise 40 minutes every morning. You eat carefully and drink almost nothing. Because you learned 20 years ago that alcohol and secrets form a compound that corrodes people from the inside. You have watched colleagues dissolve this way. You remain solid, controlled, purposeful. Your therapist, a government-cleared psychiatrist in South Delhi who treats a dozen senior intelligence officials and whose notes are classified, tells you that your affect is remarkably stable. He means this as a compliment. You write it down and wonder when stability became indistinguishable from numbness. The ironic fact, at the special secretary level, raw officers become eligible for a classified post-retirement security arrangement that includes a non-attributable identity package, a second set of documentation usable if a retired officer faces credible foreign threat. By the time you qualify for this, it is the most intimate document in your possession. A second name, a second history, a second person ready to become you the moment this one becomes unsafe. You put it in the same drawer as your son's engineering degree photograph. Level 10. The secretary, you are the director. The secretary, research and analysis wing. There is no public announcement. There is no press conference. A government notification appears in a gazette that almost no one reads, listing a name in a position with a designation that tells civilians nothing. Yours is now that name. You are briefed on everything. Every active operation across 29 countries, every double agent currently in play, every covert technical program, every liaison relationship with the CIA, MI6, Mossad, BND, you know what foreign intelligence services have told India about India. You know what India has told them in return. You sit in the NSA's office twice a week and in the Prime Minister's office once a fortnight, and in those meetings you understand, with crystalline clarity, that intelligence exists to serve policy. And policy is not about truth. Policy is about position. You have spent 30 years building a machine for finding truth in the darkness. You now sit atop that machine and deliver its findings to people who will use them to win arguments, embarrass rivals, time press releases, and occasionally, make decisions that prevent genuine catastrophe. The ratio is not what you believed it would be when you read that beige envelope at 23. The devastating irony, the Secretary of RAW is arguably the most informed human being in South Asia. You know more about the subcontinent's governments, their secrets, their contradictions, their private betrayals of public principle than any journalist, academic, or politician. You are also the person least able to do anything with this knowledge. You cannot publish, you cannot testify, you cannot warn, you cannot dissent on record. You exist to know and then to whisper, and then to watch as the whisper either changes something or doesn't. You have one friend who knows your actual name and your actual job. 1. A retired officer from your Colombo, posting year who now grows tomatoes in Coorg and does not own a smartphone. You call him 4 times a year from a personal phone your own agency does not monitor. These calls are the only conversations in your life that are not, in some way, managed. The thing you know, the thing that is the heaviest thing, is that the cycle completes itself without needing you. Right now, in a beige building in Lodi Estate, a 23-year-old with a Union Public Service Commission letter is being handed a form under the Official Secrets Act. She has been watched for 11 months. She doesn't know yet. She is looking at the pen. You were her once. You remember the pen. You remember how ordinary it felt. Somewhere in Kathmandu tonight, a government official named Birch is waiting in a tea house in Gulshan. He got the routing. Wrong. Force of habit. 15 years of meetings. It's actually a different city, a different asset, a different junior officer checking his watch by a window. But the logic is identical. A man who needs the money, a man who asks careful questions, and between them a relationship that looks enough like friendship that only one of them can feel the difference. The junior officer picks up the bill. He smiles. He is 29, freshly posted, 3 years out of training in a classroom that smelled of mildew. He looks left before he speaks. He hasn't fixed that yet.